Hi, and welcome to the Leader's Edge. A question for our leaders everywhere, whether you're in a mid sized, family owned and run organization or in a larger corporation. Our question is, how is your bench strength? Whether this is for contingency planning or like if something happened or were to happen, unfortunately, to any of your key people, or as a tool to systematically develop your team members. Your bench strength matters. And in this session, we will be speaking with Gillian Chevrotiere, a seasoned HR professional who is passionate about succession planning. And as usual, I will let Georgia introduce her in a minute so we can get the show on the road. And your awareness question today is, how do you rate your succession plan now? I mean, if something were to happen, unfortunately or fortunately, if something was to happen now, are you ready? Is your company ready? Do you guys know what you will be doing? Scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is yes, we are there. So, Georgia, let's begin.
All right. Emily, good morning. Gillian, good morning to you. It's such a pleasure to have you on our show. And
Thank you.
folks, in the seat this morning, and we don't call our seat hot seat. Our seat is nice and cool because it's a cool conversation that we have on a Monday morning. So we have Gillian Chevrotiere with us. And Gillian is an accomplished human capital leader. And guess what she does? She provides strategic direction across the full HR life cycle. Gillian has a passion, and there are so many topics that you could talk about in human resource management and in management generally, management studies. But guess what she focuses on? She focuses on succession planning. And she's a pioneer. She was among the first HR practitioners to introduce internationally certified HR programs in workforce planning and strategic HR business partner in the region. So she continues today now to work in this area, and she works now through Sigma assessment systems. So highly engaging and adaptable, she's committed to building leadership capability across the region. Gillian, you're in the seat this morning. So many topics you could talk about. Why spend time on succession planning?
Yes. Thank you so much for that introduction, Georgia, and good morning again to you and Emily. And of course, thank you for having me on your program this morning. I was so excited when the yes came.
Yes,
Um,
more pleasure.
yes. You are correct. There are so many things in the suite of HR. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love them all. I love my practice. But succession planning, when we look across even our own country and the region, I mean, this is a regional representation here, we realize that capability is something that we must focus on. So I was introduced to the topic in a very formal way through HCI, the Human Capital Institute, as well as Sigma Assessment Systems. And that really sparked something in me because when you consider it now, we do have a capability and capacity challenge that we have to treat with. I mean, we wouldn't get into the details as to why that issue has come about, but there is an opportunity for us to rectify it. So when I saw the potential in a well-structured succession planning program facilitated and supported by HR, I said, yes, this is a message that has to go out to leadership. Leadership plays a critical role in succession planning. It's not a nice to have. It's not a reactive response to a situation. It is really having a very strategic, structured approach to a what if scenario, right?
Okay.
And you can't, it's not something that you can prepare for today. It is a continuous activity that, I'm encouraging leaders to really start, begin, see it as a part of your legacy, a critical part of your legacy for any organization that you're in.
But
Okay.
Gillian, why the passion? So yes, we know there is there are gaps and capital in terms of the the capacity of our
Yes.
workforce is a continuing I wouldn't say is a continuing challenge for people to attract good humans, good people, right, and to maintain and retain. So I'm curious, what did you have a a personal experience where you saw succession planning, or even looked on and saw things happening in the workspaces in the region? I know there were a couple examples currently that people could probably think of, but I'm curious, like, yeah, how would you relate that or make that real for someone listening? Like, yeah, okay, again, one of these things, it always sounds like, yeah, like, but that would happen to us. So tell me.
But I
Why?
think right there you've answered it.
Mm.
That wouldn't happen to us. I mean, if it is, we really, hone in on that statement. And if we were to take that, we'd realize the inherent risk even in taking that sort of approach when it comes to succession
Yeah.
planning. But beyond that, the passion really was honed when I got to build the muscle and be a part of it in one of my organizations that I worked in. And secondly, when you of yourself see yourself in that blueprint, I
Mhm.
think that really brought it to life. So it's one thing as the HR leader to participate in succession planning, start that activity, see the potential in that activity. But when you see your name written as a part of a
Mhm.
plan, a well structured, documented plan, yes, that was the aha moment. This has a lot of potential possibility, but other persons can experience the benefit of going through this type of process. Now, I would
Wow.
have said at the beginning that HR is a facilitator. We sort of, act as the accountability partners, and we support
Right.
with the governing structure, the governance structure around succession planning. But that part of it is also very critical for the potential persons who may be a part of this plan. Because, most times persons may say in an organization, there is no accountability, it's not a transparent process. How was this person promoted over myself, etc.?
Mhm.
So what the leader does, the leader really takes responsibility and drives this process as something that is transparent. There is high accountability. It is an
Mhm.
opportunity to actively participate in something that contributes to business continuity. And business continuity here, not meaning that we are doing everything the same way 30, 40 years from now, but
Right. That's the point.
recognizing in that uncertain future that you have this really distinct opportunity to prepare the next generation of leaders and facilitate those who are going to be in critical roles in the
Mm.
organization.
Okay, great. Gillian, I want to paint a picture. So I'm putting you in a situation where you have an organization and people are feeling vulnerable. So the leader who owns that organization has about 30 employees, and they're now saying, listen, you need to have a succession plan. So he's feeling as if, these people want to push me out. But he gave in and he designed a plan. And then there are two persons now who he has named as successors. And these people feel they must get that position. How do you talk to these leaders, the leader who owns the business and the leaders who have been named in the plan? Let's talk practical stuff.
Definitely. And that is certainly a human response, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start to speak to persons about tomorrow and you possibly not being a part of that tomorrow, you start
Mm-hmm.
to feel as though your role has diminished.
Yes.
But I would like persons to shift the script. So my conversation will be around, no, what you are seeing now is that your leadership is climaxing to a point where you are having this great level of influence over the
Mm-hmm.
next leader. Your role is now being shifted into something even greater, and you are
Mm-hmm.
creating legacy for the organization.
I love
Because
that.
no, exactly, no leader wants their legacy to be, you know what, you left us worse off. You
Mm-hmm.
left us unprepared. You left us exposed, or at risk, as the case may be. So you have to be able to, one, acknowledge what that person is feeling in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
but also amplify the significant benefits of what they will be contributing to. So it's
Ah,
like a phase one, phase two,
yes.
going into another phase. And there is nothing greater, I feel, for a good leader to see development really giving rise in
Mm-hmm.
someone else who is a fit for that
Yes.
next leadership role. You
Yes.
know, I have influenced and really broken apart, examined this person behaviorally, technically, sorry, to
Mm-hmm.
assess that one, they are ready, or I'm influencing how they are getting ready for that
Mm-hmm.
next, and in a very structured way as well. So I feel once you have that very open conversation with the leader, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
today for tomorrow. Remember, when you're doing succession planning, it's really a trajectory. It's a
Yes.
path that you're taking that leader through with the other potential successors.
Right. That's a wonderful response to that leader. What about the two persons who have been named
Yeah.
as successors and feel that they must hold this position within 6 months or a year? Because
Hmm.
it's a
And
plan, it's
this,
not a promise,
yeah,
right? It's a plan, not a
Exactly.
promise.
correct. It's
Exactly.
That's right. It's a plan. And you would recall that at the beginning I said transparency is key.
Mm-hmm.
The governance
Yes.
structure is key, right? So implicit is that is a well-structured communication strategy as well for those persons who may be identified as potential successors. Now,
Mm-hmm.
quickly, your potential successors have certain characteristics about them. It's what we call high potential employees.
Mm-hmm.
Persons who may either be ready now or ready in 1 to 3 years, as the case may be. But persons that the organization can hardly afford to be without. And I shouldn't say persons, I should say rules, because it's really the
Mm-hmm.
rules you focus
Yeah.
on. Because this is not
Yes.
a person, right? It's
Yes.
your rule. So once you recognize that in these persons, this is really a part of the life cycle of the employee. So you see, Emily, the passion is there, but it's not divorced from other aspects of your HR life cycle with the employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So for those two persons, they should understand. Okay, it's not that you are getting this role, but you are being first prepared
Mm-hmm.
for the possibility of fitting into this role. And some may even ask Georgia, well, why not one person? Why two or three persons as the case?
Mm-hmm.
Because regardless to what point you are in your succession planning, there is always risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
An organization is never able to survive if it just has one simple strategy. That strategy is something that you modify, you fix, you have to tweak here, tweak there, as the case may be. And it's very similar when you're preparing persons for different roles in the organization. Things happen,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Somebody just up suddenly and leave, you
Yes.
know. Something may change within them, they may want to change careers. So it's always you ensuring that you have the risk in your mind. What are the
Mm-hmm.
potential risks that could occur? So for those two employees, two or three persons, there is a plan, there is a very direct conversation with the leader and
Right.
in the presence of HR, because the leader must take responsibility, right, for these persons that are being prepared. They
Well, I
have to
can't
understand.
imagine. I can't
Yes,
imagine they can be prepared without the leaders' sort of agreements
definitely.
that
Input.
the
Yes. And
You know,
appropriate
blessing.
and
appropriate
it
fit
becomes a
to the role.
hallmark for the leader. It becomes a hallmark for the leader because
Hmm.
they too have to be very much invested in the activity as
Yes.
well.
Well, like,
Because
yeah,
of
that was saying. I think it will be a very difficult activity, or more like a checklist activity, if the leader
yes,
isn't really involved and engaged.
correct.
Because
That's true.
again, if somebody is succeeding me, I know what I am doing. I know what I need, or the capabilities that I need to possess
Yes,
in order to complete or do, or be able to continue to function in the role. So
Mm-hmm.
without, I mean, of course, with HR guidance and, as you say, support, but I think the leader is very critical in
yes,
assessing
and
and
that's correct,
agreeing
Emily.
with the persons, or yeah, with the persons that are
Mm-hmm.
being position for succession.
Yes,
And I imagine it's not just the succession for the leader itself, but it's a plan that rolls up, right? So you look at all your key roles, as you were saying. So you have your leadership and you have your key roles.
Yes.
Because
that's
there
right.
might be roles that are not necessarily leaders, but they're functions that are necessary, like
Yes.
critically important
Yes,
functions for the
correct,
organization.
correct.
And
And
this
it's
is part of the plan.
exactly. Yeah, you're
Go
very correct, Emily. They can't approach it as a checklist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it can be that, you know what, this person has found favor with you. So this is the person I've identified as a successor.
Right, right.
Sometimes, exactly, you know, sometimes persons don't want to participate in it because they feel when they start to put a spotlight on their high performers or their high potential, suddenly other areas of the business become, you know, sexy to the point where it is persons want to shift. But
Ah.
it really requires a particular set of characteristics within the leader. The
Mm-hmm.
leader has to understand what they are participating in and how critical they are to the activity of succession planning.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know the role, they can anticipate what may be needed in the future, but still to guide that mindset into what it is the leader needs to do. You know, there are some questions that must be asked.
Mm-hmm.
How critical is this role to the business?
Right.
Is the risk if this role is not filled, as the case may be? How does this position drive strategy, generate revenue? Can the business afford to be without someone within this role? And when they
Mm-hmm.
start to ask themselves these questions and take it on as really and truly a part of what they do and what they are as leaders, it removes itself from being a checklist, but a strategic activity that they become accountable for in the organization. And then, you know, I guess the icing on the cake, you look back, this is your legacy. You did not leave a failed state. You know,
Yes.
persons were able to transition well. There is a blueprint. So that also
Mm-hmm.
drives culture. When persons can really see in an organization a transparent approach to successors, right? It really lends itself to a better culture within the organization. It
And
becomes
that's an important word, Gillian. Culture. Yes.
culture, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. Very, very, because we know what happens if it is the culture is bad. We
Mm-hmm.
know what, you know, all of
Mm-hmm.
the risk. And it comes back again to risk. You know, you can't just ignore how this is going to impact culture because this in itself is going to lend itself to risk
Mm-hmm.
within the business. And you can have
Right.
quiet quitters as well. Persons believing what I should have been or this one should have been, you know.
Yes.
You really want to take this seriously. This is not a training plan.
No.
When you speak about succession planning, it's on a number of levels: coaching, mentoring, you know, experiential learning as well. You know, you look at past performance as an indicator of future performance. You're really very intentional about how you treat with gaps and the time that you have to
Right.
influence the next set of leaders, as the case may be. So,
Yes.
Emily, I'm really trying not to like jump on the desk, but there is so much loaded in succession planning. If
Yes.
the leaders would really see how important this is, and this is perhaps one of the most important activities that a leader could undertake in an organization.
Mm-hmm. I
So,
saw a quote, Gillian. Sorry, I saw a quote that says it's like passing the baton without slowing down your speed.
that's
That's
right.
succession
That's
planning,
excellent.
Yes,
I'm
and
borrowing that.
if
I'm
the
taking
leader,
that.
you're taking
Yes.
that, and if the leader recognizes that it's not about him or her, but it's about the future of the organization, then they
Yeah.
will see the need to ensure they have a proper plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
And you know, Georgia, we can
Hmm.
all start off very simply, you know,
Yes, tell
because it
us.
could be daunting and intimidating for some persons. So you think, oh my God, how am I doing this? But let's go back to that small company, the small business, as the case may be. Just assess the roles in your organization and just do a look ahead with your business and just
Mm-hmm.
pull out one or two roles and really start to dissect it. What makes this role critical to the business? What
Yes.
could possibly occur if this role, right, is vacant?
Mm-hmm.
What can happen?
So
You know,
those are your key roles,
yes, because we don't have a plan in place. We have not been
right?
grooming someone over time, someone or some persons over time. Just start there. Begin to assess the gaps. Do we
Mm-hmm.
have X number of skills? You know, do we have the capability currently in the organization? Are there persons showing the potential? And it's simple tools, you know. In my business, Reliable HR, we say, you know, we give out some Friday freebies. Why not some Monday freebies as well? So post this session, it would be really good to just share, some of the templates that persons can use to just start, because you
Mm-hmm.
must have the data.
Right.
Because remember, you don't want one person to be stagnated in your organization, and you certainly don't want to do a nice to have activity and then you shelf it.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Right.
want to be able to ensure that there's continuity, there's interest, you keep to a schedule, and you really have leaders that are driving the change. And to be able to ensure that happens, they have to have this as a part of their accountability stats, their
Mm-hmm. Sounds
activities in
good.
the organization.
Mm.
They must be reporting. So, we speak about going to your succession committee on a quarterly basis. What have you done? How have you progressed? What are some of the lessons learned? What would you like to see done differently? What did you miss, or what did HR miss? What do we have to do differently to
Mm-hmm.
ensure that we are sustaining the momentum in the organization around succession planning?
Yeah, so it's not a done and dusted
Not
activity.
at
It's an
all. Not at all.
activity that
It's
we
not.
continually check in because it's a continuous improvement from a
Mm-hmm.
development perspective. As you say, people change, things change in the organization. And you know what? It made me think too as we're talking, it's sort of like also a planned way of exiting
Yes.
organizations. Right?
Yes.
If you think of it, I mean, obviously, in a way, because you're leaving a legacy, but
Yes.
sometimes, the exit may occur because it was something that happened that was sudden, or change that happened that was not
Yes.
planned. But then there are changes that can be planned. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are in that small organization setting and you want to or exit in an organized way so you can have a retirement that feels good, or a role, have lesser and lesser roles to play, direct roles in the day-to-day running of the organization.
That's
I
right.
guess you can plan for that. And in larger
Mm-hmm.
organizations, that probably happens. But the question, what we're putting out to you is that check and see, is it happening? Because if you don't know what your succession plan
Correct.
is, maybe it's time to ask. And probably we're
That's
not as
true.
organized as we think we
Yes.
are or could be, right?
That is
That's
true.
right.
That is true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You,
You are
So
very
Georgia, I
correct.
feel, yeah. So Georgia, I feel
yeah.
we have to get to the wrap. So Jillian,
Oh yes.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you
But
want
you know what?
to enter the call to action. What is that? Oh, Georgia, sorry.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that whole picture about the relay. If
Yes.
leaders see it as
Yes.
the relay, and it's not just the handover or the handoff that's important, it's how you're running the entire race. So it's not the individual who is handing over, but it's how it's the success of the team throughout that race.
Correct.
So if our
That's
leaders see
it.
that, it's going to make
Yes.
it real for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is an excellent analogy, Georgia, because
Mm-hmm.
really and truly, it's structured.
Mm-hmm.
When you think of the relay, we know who's the first leg, we know who's the last leg, and who has to be the
Yes.
center, because you
Yes.
assess potential in particular ways, the potential and the talent. It's very similar with that plan. You
Mm-hmm.
have a starting point. There is a middle that must occur for the end to look
Mm-hmm.
like what you want it to
Wanted to.
look like. It's
Right.
really, really important. So you're correct. It is a
Okay.
relay. And
Good.
and you don't want to be reactive. And
That's
we
true.
plan vacations. We plan our entire weekend before the week starts, the new week starts. Think about it. Why can't I plan for my exit? Why
Mm-hmm.
can't that be something so dignified and something that I have fully participated in? So, I have actively been involved. And it's not quiet quitting. We have to understand that
Right.
it's not quitting before you
No, certainly
start.
not.
It is planning. It is
Mm-hmm.
strategically planning
Right.
for that exit. Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's
So,
unselfish.
I'm handing the baton over to you to close.
Correct, correct, with a smile on your face.
Yes. Over to you,
Yes.
Emily.
All right, people. So you heard Jillian, and maybe you might want to listen to this again because there are lots of tips that Jillian provided inside of here
Mm-hmm.
to invigorate that idea of why succession planning is such an important tool for organizations' current health and
Yes.
well-being of the organization. because you are looking to the future. You want this race to continue. And the question is, how are we doing in terms of looking at the levels beyond and developing them so that they can take us forward even further than we can go right now, right? So that is what you need to think about when you think in succession. Think about, making the future even better than today, and how are we going to leave our legacy? What is our legacy? Not just the fact that we did great while we were here, but when you look back at that company, the foundations that you laid, how did it continue after that? All right. So thank you again, Gillian, for
Wonderful.
sharing this morning your
Thank you so
passion with
much.
us on
Yes.
succession planning.
Yes.
Thank
And
you
have
so
It was
much
a
for the
pleasure having you,
opportunity.
Gillian.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah, and have a
Lovely.
wonderful, wonderful week, everyone. This is a great
Yes.
place in December. So another one of those things to think about as you're thinking into new calendar years. It's something you need to
Yes.
add to the calendar.
Yes, Emily. Perfect. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful week.